Welcome, everyone. It's great to see so many people joining us for the University of Minnesota China's Considering China webinar, Monkey King Afterlives, with Professor Ann Waltner. I'm Joan Brzezinski, and I direct the China Center. There will be a Q&A question and answer session directly following the presentation. Please submit questions that you may have throughout the program at the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we will answer as many as we can at the end of the program. Journey to the West, a Chinese classic novel, is a story that was first published in 1592 about a monk who left China and went to India to obtain scriptures to circulate and spread the good news. Our speaker today is Professor Ann Waltner, and she'll give a brief outline of the novel and the transformation of the novel to the San Francisco Opera stage. Ann Waltner is a professor of history at the University of Minnesota, specializing in the social and cultural history of China from the 16th century through the 18th centuries. She is currently teaching a freshman seminar entitled The Monkey King and His Afterlives, retelling the story of a Chinese novel. Please, everybody, welcome Professor Ann Waltner.
Thanks, Joan. I just got back last night from San Francisco, where I saw the dress rehearsal for the opera and the premiere for the opera. So I will be talking about the novel and the opera, and I'm quite excited about the opera. I'm actually also quite excited by the novel. So this is an opera based on a novel, which is loosely based on a historical fact. It is a story, the historical fact is the story of a monk named Xuanzong who lives between 1602 and 1664, who actually did walk from China to India to get Buddhist scriptures. He was distressed by the fact that there were so many conflicting ideas, and he wanted to get things straight. So he walked to India, he got scriptures. He got so many scriptures that he had to get 20 horses to carry them back. And he spent the rest of his life translating the scriptures. He wrote a lengthy account of his travels, which is also called Journey to the West. It has been translated by Samuel Beal. It's also been translated by Li Rongxi. The actual journey to the West that Xuanzong took is the subject of a 2016 film that is called Xuanzong. It is a China-India co-production, which was nominated for an Academy Award in 2016 for the best foreign film. And when you when you watch the film, you see this monk walking and walking and walking through hot desert sand, losing his water, all of that sort of thing. And you think, yes, indeed, that monk needed magical companions to do the journey. So all of this is true, but Xuanzong did not travel with a monkey, a pig, or a sand demon. There is a core of historical reality at the story, the center of the story. It's a very big story, and the core of historical reality is a very small core. So the large-scale plot of the novel, the monk, accompanied by a monkey, a pig, and a reformed sand demon, go from China to India to get scriptures. The monkey, the pig, and the sand demon are all reformed demons. There are many, many, many adventures. The novel is 100 chapters long, and many of the adventures have elements of humor. Monkey has great magical skills, which help get the hero out of trouble. The story of the monk has actually become the story of the monkey. So the pilgrims get to India, they meet the Buddha, he gives them scriptures. After they leave, they see that the texts are blank. So they go back and they complain to the Buddha, who responds by saying, since you people came with empty hands to acquire scriptures, blank texts were handed to you, but These blank texts are actually true, wordless scriptures, and they are just as good as those with words. However, those creatures in your land of the East are so foolish and unenlightened that I have no choice but to impart to you the text with words. So they get text with words and they go back to China. The novel is published in 1592. It's attributed to Wu Chang'an, although I think there is actually a lot of uncertainty about who wrote it. But the publication of the novel is not the beginning of the story. The story of Monkey, the Monk, Sand Demon, and the Pig precedes the novel. Beginning in the 15th century, and perhaps even earlier than that, there is a genre of text called Baojuan that translates literally as precious scrolls, which tell the story of these four creatures going from China to India. And a wonderful scholar of religion named Benjamin Brose has found evidence of rituals which are called obtaining the scriptures, which have stories involving the monkey, the pig, and the sand demon. Brose calls the story cycle a myth, using Wendy Doniger's definition of myth as a story that is sacred to and shared by a group of people who find their most important meanings in it. It is a story believed to have been composed in the past about an event in the past, or more rarely in the future, an event that continues to have meaning in the present because it is remembered. It is a story that is part of a larger group of stories. So we know the story precedes the novel. We also know that many people who read the novel read it because it is great fun, but there are other people who read it for its religious impact. Philippe Clark, who is a scholar of religion, he's done field work in Taiwan and Hong Kong on religion and popular culture, and he has written that many of his informants regard the novel as a true story. I'm going to shift gears now and talk a bit about the novel, about the opera. The opera does not try to do all 100 chapters. It is the first 7 or so chapters, the segment that is frequently called the Havoc in Heaven segment. It is the segment in which Monkey acquires the skills he will need to assist the monk on his trip to India. He does not know in the first 7 chapters that he is going to be going to India, but the first 7 chapters set him up to have skills. As I suggested earlier, Monkey is in fact the hero of the novel, not the monk. How does this happen? He has the magic and the wiles to get the monk to the Buddha. The monk does not appear in the opera. The journey from China to India in real life with Xuanzang and in the novel and in the opera, well, actually, it doesn't happen in the opera. The journey was undertaken on foot. The physical journey would have been arduous. The novel, the actual Xuanzang does not have magic, but the novel gives him companions who have all sorts of magical skills. So Monkey is the most important companion. And Monkey is born from a stone. And the birth of Monkey from a stone is a really spectacular, it's visually spectacular in the opera. On the stage, there's a big stone, there's light shining on it that shows it's cracking. It comes open and Monkey comes out. At this point, we understand that he's not an ordinary monkey. He has no family. He is born from a stone. He has no name because he has no family. He's given a name by a later teacher. He has no connections to the past, and I think he's not embedded in a group that will give him a kind of ordinary moral sense. He finds a group of monkeys and he becomes their king for a couple hundred years. Time and space in the novel and the opera are both kind of malleable, 100 years here, 100 years there. At one point, Monkey actually says to somebody, I haven't had a bath in 500 years. Do you have some water I could have? So things go well for a couple hundred years. But then Monkey becomes restless. And he's worried about the future. And what really concerns him is the problem of mortality. We are here, we are fine now, but it's not going to last forever because we are going to die. So what he decides to do is pursue immortality. And he decides to become a disciple of a man named Subodhi, whose name I seem not to have put on the PowerPoint. Subodhi gives him a name. He teaches him many things. Subodhi actually tells his other disciples, look, this new disciple, he doesn't understand any etiquette. He doesn't know how to wear clothes. There are all kinds of things that he doesn't know. We know from the novel that Monkey spent about 8 years learning what he calls human language. He doesn't call it Chinese. After 7 years, the master deigns to teach him. I mean, he really does say at the beginning, you know, I think you're too odd looking for me to teach you, but he's gradually persuaded. 3 years later, after he's been taught, he says he apprehends the nature of all things. And his teacher tells him, you have stolen the creative powers of heaven and earth and invaded the dark mysteries of the sun and moon. So that's his teacher's evaluation of his power. He was a monster. Because he was a monster, he can see monsters that others can't. He can shapeshift. He can become a tiny insect, which can enter someone's body and wreak havoc internally. He can cloud somersault and travel vast distances. The gods and the demons, and it's not always clear who is a god and who is a demon. Just because you're a god doesn't mean you always behave well, and just because you're a demon doesn't mean you're always bad. They want to control him. They give him a title which sounds powerful to him, and they put him in charge of horses. He's initially honored, but he finds out that the title is low, and he's basically a glorified stable boy. So he treats the horses well. He releases them from confinement. There are many spectacular moments in the opera, but the way the puppeteer Basil Twist has imagined and constructed the horses is one of the high points of the opera. They frolic and they soar. They're horse puppets that are, I mean, they're not life-size, they're larger than life, and they soar, they dominate the stage. Monkey steals fruit, and food is a big theme in the novel. Where are we going to get food? Monks often get food by begging. You know, there aren't any grocery stores on the road from China to India, so food is a big theme in the novel. The fruit that Monkey steals is fruit of the peaches of immortality of the Queen Mother of the West. He is not invited to a banquet because his status is not high enough. So in a sense, his stealing of the peaches, which he takes back to the monkeys, but his stealing of the peaches is revenge. So the Buddha makes a deal with him. And if he can jump out of the Buddha's hand, he will be rewarded with a very high title. And he thinks, well, this is silly. I can soar 108,000 miles in a single instant. Why can't I get out of the Buddha's hand? So he thinks he's done this. He thinks he's gone to a faraway land. He finds a pillar where he writes his name, and then he urinates at the base of the pillar. The Buddha then reveals that, in fact, the faraway land is the Buddha's hand, and he has, in fact, urinated on the hand of the Buddha. The Buddha demands that he clean up the mess. Monkey has magic, but the power and magic of the Buddha is better. And this increases Monkey's appreciation of the power of the Buddha. Monkey is always at the cusp of danger, but he always gets away. And one of the questions that many of us who knew the novel had, how are you going to portray Monkey on stage? And there are 3 entities that portray Monkey on stage. There is an opera singer, there's a dancer, and then there is a puppet. And again, Basil Twist is the puppeteer. So questions, why is the monkey a monkey? And there are a number of theories about this. One of them is that there may be an Indian source. A Hanuman is an Indian monkey, but monkeys also were regarded as being mischievous in China. Monkey, as I've suggested, he has to learn to be human-like. He does not want to become a human, but he wants to be able to pass as a human. So he wears clothes, he learns etiquette, but he never really makes it. And I think the fact that none of the helpers who go with the monk to get the scriptures, none of the helpers are human, opens up thinking about the human, the non-human, and the superhuman. So anyway, I think that's an important point. And why is this story so popular? The Wikipedia article on the novel lists 70 adaptations of it. And Wikipedia is not particularly learned about what is going on in China. So I think 70 is a very, very, very low number. Monkey, I think there are several answers about why the story is so popular. First of all, Monkey is an endearing and engaging character. He has skill, he has charm. There are two ways of interpreting his misbehavior, and the misbehavior is very real. One is that Monkey's misbehavior is a celebration of defiance. And especially in China in the 1960s, the portrayal of Monkey is somebody who challenges authority and stands up for the underdog. Sometimes what seems like the correct thing to do is not, in fact, the correct thing. One of the important episodes in the novel is a pretty young woman holding food comes. They are all very, very, very hungry. And everybody in the party but Monkey says, oh, let's get some food. Monkey kills the girl. Later, a woman comes weeping and says, has anyone seen my daughter? Monkey kills her. An older man comes and says, has anyone seen my wife and daughter? Monkey kills him. So it is revealed that the three of them were manifestations of demons. But what happens before this is revealed is the monk, Tripitaka, says to Monkey, I'm done with you. You are a murderer. I am a Buddhist. We cannot travel together. But of course, then when it's revealed that everybody was a demon, he's forgiven. And this is not an episode which appears in the opera. So that he is unconventional is part of the novel. He's not bound by convention. His unconventionality, as I said, is due to the fact that he can see things no one else can see. He is wily, he is mischievous, but he is not evil. But another way of reading the novel is that Monkey is finally subdued. His behavior is modified, the wildness has its use, but in the end, he becomes a good Buddhist. So you can read the novel as a celebration of unconventionality, or you can read the novel as about the subduing of unconventionality. And I would suggest that part of the power of the novel is that both readings are possible. There is a complexity and richness, and even I would say craziness to the novel that has drawn readers and viewers for centuries. And it has drawn opera goers in for the past several days and will continue to do so. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the opera. As I said earlier, the opera does not try to do the whole novel. It does the first 7 chapters. But of course, selection involves a bit of revising. And I'd like to highlight a couple of points where I think the revisioning has been especially creative. In the novel, the Bodhisattva Guanyin does not appear until chapter 6. A Bodhisattva is a being who has attained the kind of perfection that's needed to attain nirvana, but makes a choice to remain on the earth and work to help other people attain nirvana. So the opera begins and ends with Guan Yin. She gives the opera a Buddhist frame, which I think is necessary. The Buddhist frame of the novel is the search to get the scriptures. That does not happen in the opera, and the framing with Guan Yin, I think, does that. And the frame of the opera, I think, is Monkey's gradual awakening to the limits of his power and the importance of compassion. Monkey is powerful in the novel, but his power and the limits of power, not just Monkey's power, but any power, are stressed more explicitly in the opera than they are in the novel. The opera ends with Monkey singing. Power alone is not enough. Power means nothing unless it is given away. Once power is gone, compassion can find room to enter the heart with a spirit of caring, to help all beings relieve their suffering and reach the land of bliss. It is not clear at the end of the opera that Monkey will reach the land of bliss. Both the Buddha and Guan Yin suggest that he might, but they are not certain. They say his future depends upon what he does. He can create his future through his actions, and we do believe in him, but we are not positive that he will reach the land of bliss. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Anne. This is great. Yeah, we have one question coming in. It says, how did the author create the novel? Has he been to India? Was he a Buddhist? For example, using Hanuman as source of the monkey. How was this story reflect the history of the time?
Okay, those are great questions. I'm fairly sure the author of the novel never went to India, and it's not clear that the monkey is based on Hanuman. He may be, the monkey maybe was. There are a lot of theories about who the monkey is based on. There is in the 16th century, Buddhism and Taoism are both very important in China. And the fact that the teachers of Monkey are both Buddhists and Taoists, and in fact, Lao Tzu appears as a character in the story. So I think that kind of religious syncretism does reflect the spirit of the times. And I think there would have been people in 16th century China that would have said, I am a Buddhist, I am a pure Buddhist, I am nothing but a Buddhist, and I don't have anything to do with Taoism or anything else. But that's very rare. That I think that by the late 16th century, Chinese religion is really very syncretic. Yes, there are many ways in which this is a Buddhist novel, because the sort of the happy ending is salvation by the Buddha, but other religious aspects of particularly Taoism do appear. We don't really know anything about the personal about the beliefs of the person we believe wrote it. We're not even sure he wrote it. The story kind of had accretion after accretion after accretion, and it's finally put in novelist form in 1592. Thank you for the question. Hi, Ann, are there more questions?
Yeah, there's a comment from Pearl Burgad. She said, please check SFO website. I think you need to purchase the live stream ticket before 7:30 p.m. performance on November 18th. If you want to watch during the on-demand period this coming weekend. So thank you, Pearl.
Okay, so the URL for the San Francisco Opera is on the current screen. Yes, thank you, Pearl. And I guess I'm not going to embarrass you, Pearl, but there are a number of reasons that the San Francisco Opera did Monkey King, and one of them was the energy provided by the Chinese Heritage Foundation. And in fact, the Chinese Heritage Foundation provided commissioning fees. So it's very, and this comes after the San Francisco Opera did an opera on Dream of the Red Chamber, which was also promoted by the Chinese Heritage Foundation, which is based here. There are a lot of very wonderful people who are involved in the Chinese Heritage Foundation. Do you have other questions, Hyen?
Well, while we are waiting for other questions to come in, I do have a question. So you said you already watched the performance in San Francisco. So what do you think the US or Western audience will get most out of this opera?
Well, that's actually a great question. I think that if someone went into the opera knowing nothing about the story, you are given kind of a plot outline, but if you went really knowing nothing about the story, what you would get out of it is really spectacular theatricality. It is beautiful, elaborate stage settings, beautiful, elaborate costumes, so I think that if you didn't really understand the plot, the theatricality would lead you through it.
Sounds great. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. Thank you, Anne. This is great. Thank you very much. And then like Anne said, if you're interested in this opera, you could register for the on-demand live stream. Thank you very much. And then on our next webinar will be exactly 1 month from today, December 17th, and it will be by Professor David Lampton. He is a China expert, and then also he is a professor emeritus from the Johns Hopkins University. He is going to talk about the US-China relation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hyen.